Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to talk about an idea I had a while ago. I kind of procrastinated making a video about it, but I figured it would be time eventually to do it now, mainly because I just released a video about things I kind of hope to see in 2020, and this is kind of like the biggest idea that might change the game and the way the game feels completely and entirely. At least I think it could potentially have quite huge impact, and it would also kind of like improve player quality and the whole kind of game experience quite a bit. And it is to do with leaderboards. Currently in the game, basically we have Summoner leaderboard, Alliance leaderboard, and there are hardly any stats in it, and they don't mean all that much if we're going to be completely honest, because you can see the size of the roster or strongest team. Nobody even really knows what the strongest team is, like to a degree, perhaps, maybe. I mean, like, at least I never paid much attention to it because I find it kind of like a silly stat to post there. At the same time, Kabam has started sending out these emails saying like, hey, Summoner, last month you did that and that many fights, and like that was your highest damage, or this is I don't know what you did, but they basically give you like 4 or 5 pieces of stats in like a personalized email, right? And additionally, when we look at our Summoner profiles, which are obviously still a public knowledge, everybody can see like your top 4 champions for whatever reason. They can see some fairly relevant stats like what kind of duels you have done. It's like technically like who cares, right? Or Alliance War MVPs and stuff like that. These stats are already slightly better. They do indicate some things, but at the same time not all that much. So my idea kind of like is to do a complete revamp on this whole stat and make it much more elaborate, give a lot of detailed statistics publicly accessible to pretty much everybody, right? And if you do that, then you're gonna get completely kind of different environment and structure around all of that. If we do, for instance, either it can be in game or it can even be a website, something linked to the forums. Now if I exit the game, not exactly like this in a forum way, but let's say Aunt May is fairly good representation, I suppose. And you could go on and look up champions, and in this case it would be players profiles instead. And you can see, for instance, hits taken versus hits received statistics, damage dealt versus damage taken statistics, what kind of content, how you completed, and so on and so forth, basically. Most used champions and base idea, things like that. So anybody who actually visits some other person's profile page, a very good idea. Even further, you can expand to build leaderboards in that, to be able to filter by different stats, who has the most arena wins, and then you select a time frame, last 3 days, last 7 days, last year, and so on and so forth. And then you can actually monitor your own ranking, your progress, how you're doing in compared to other people, how many maybe hits you're taking in compared to other people, so on and so forth. Obviously, there's quite a lot of details that would need to be polished, exactly what statistics to use, from when, is it all of your fights or only maybe initial completions, separate tabs for Alliance Quests, Alliance Wars, what kind of maps you typically have played, how you perform in them, and release that as a public knowledge, and then let people use it. Do the same thing for alliances. Showcase Alliance leaderboard in terms of activity, in terms of I don't know how many help buttons are hit, how many total fights in Alliance are done, so you can see the overall activity of the Alliance. Especially for lower tier Alliance, that would be extremely important when people are trying to find a decent Alliance and they want to get in an active Alliance. They can actually compare how active the people would be in that Alliance and how much they really play, and what is, I don't know, the total online time. These are all of the things that Kabam definitely has ability to draw stats from. If they can tell me which players used what kind of currency to obtain Mystic Cores for Mystic Dispersion and refund it exactly as loyal to your units, then they can definitely draw more precise player data out as well. Putting it in a separate platform and making it feel a bit more like sport-like, where you have leagues, tables, like you have professional football players, kind of compares the stats in between, I don't know, Messi, Ronaldo, whatever, Griezmann, who is doing how well. And you can do that same for MCOC players now. And I think that would be giving the game so much more kind of like fresh outlook. It would pique a lot more interest from people to see how they're doing, how their friends doing, let them try and improve their stats, kind of pick and choose which stats are important to them. Additionally, it will help you, as I mentioned before, if there are alliance stats available, it will help you kind of like choose the alliance that you want to go in. You can, for instance, see the history of alliance quest, alliance war rankings, the overall activity, so you have some decent kind of gauge of how good, active, or whatever that alliance is. Additionally, when alliances are trying to recruit members, they can sim through the player's profile, see whether this player is active, whether he plays well, what kind of experience he has had. So it would be kind of like this bio sheet. And obviously it wouldn't be for everyone. Plenty of people can just choose to ignore it or don't use it. And if you're a casual gamer, you're not interested, like where you rank in, I don't know, damage dealt versus damage received. There will be also plenty of competitive players who would like to have their standings increased, who would like to have their stats increased, who would like to kind of aim for top of the leaderboards. And again, you can even expand it a bit further and give some sort of small awards or the titles, for instance, to the person who has done the most arena fights in a set calendar month, the person who has died the least amount of times in a set calendar month, the person who has fought most quest fights, the person who has earned most alliance quest point, the person who has had the best alliance war performance, whatever. You can pick and choose and give some sort of small symbol prizes, maybe titles, maybe some units and refills, or some items that aren't game breaking, that aren't so crazy valuable that we have another gifting event situation in our hands, but at the same time something that makes you feel appreciated and kind of like think that it's cool that you have achieved something. And there is so much Kabam could do with these things, and the fact itself that they have started sending out these emails of your stats, plus the fact that quite a bit of your stats are already publicly available anyway, so it's not kind of like a breach of privacy issue, because they do control the game, they technically own your account, and they are free to post all of these statistics, as they are technically already doing, like your duel wins, your quest fights, your arena fights. It's just a lot less clear and a lot more pointless currently, and it doesn't really serve as a good indicator. But creating a sub website or it, because it could potentially be a bit too large to integrate into the game, but if they manage to integrate into the game, that would be perfect as well. That would be kind of like the ideal solution, where you can kind of filter out by players' profile size, by their I don't know, level, rating, all of these things, prestige, so on and so forth, and then help alliance recruit different members and pick and choose which potential recruit would be doing better, possibly. If you have full of their history available, then pick and choose which alliance would be better for you. It kind of would, in my head at least, it's working out like if anybody has played football managers, kind of like football fantasy league, and when you're browsing player stats, play their history, player performance in X amount of time, in X amount of years, in just current season or whatever, and do that. It's a fairly simple idea. It doesn't even imply all of that change, or if any change in game really. It just would be a data sorting, filtering, and publishing kind of situation. So I think it's fairly easily achievable as well. I don't think it would take an immensely huge amount of work, maybe if they choose to kind of design a website around for it. But at the same time, I think that could make Marvel Concert Champions feel a lot more present, feel a lot more dynamic, feel a lot more interesting, quite a bit more open. Additionally, it would in fact also be helpful to the people, because you can see how well you're doing in comparison to the others. You would be able to see how potential alliance recruits are doing, or how alliances are doing overall, and you would have much better gauge of exactly where you're at in the game, what you have to do to get where you want to be in the game, or even as an alliance you could have like a good gauge, kind of like where you want to go to progress and what are your priorities. And again, even if it doesn't interest a large portion of player base, I still think it could attract a large amount of players, and I still think that could kind of make a lot more people more dedicated to the game and pay a bit more attention and be a bit more involved in the community and all of that. But that is just an idea. That is quite a different idea, and I really do hope something like that comes in the future, and I finally decided to stop procrastinating and If I don't put it out there, then I doubt anybody would. But either way, that will do for today's video. I don't want to make it too long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions, comments, tweaks, ideas, if you want to push this idea, forward it to everybody you know, post it on forums, make a thread on forums, forward it to your social media, have it pick up a bit, and maybe you can gain some traction behind it, and possibly somebody from Kabam actually listens to it. So I think that would be a fairly interesting thing. But yeah, that is it for me now. I'm done for reals, and yeah, if you do think this is a cool idea, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all of the buttons. It's greatly helpful and appreciated, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.